close your eyes, I want you to imagine the cold. Not the kind of cold you feel when you step out of your house in winter. I mean the kind of cold that has a taste. It tastes like iron. It tastes like death. The year is 1177. We are on the banks of the Onon River in Mongolia. It is the middle of the night. A teenage boy is sitting in the dirt. He is filthy, he is starving, and he is wearing a wooden collar, a kangui. This device is a heavy rectangular board locked around his neck. It prevents him from lying down comfortably. It prevents him from feeding himself. It prevents him from brushing the lice out of his hair. He is helpless. He is a prisoner of a rival clan, the Taichiud. Every night, they drag him to a different tent to be mocked. They treat him like a dog that needs to be broken. But the boy, whose name is Temujin, isn't breaking. He is watching. Through the wooden frame that traps his head, he watches the guards. He watches how they get drunk. He watches how their discipline rots when they think they are safe. He watches the hierarchy of power, who bows to whom, who fears whom. He is learning a lesson that will cost the world 40 million lives. He is learning that mercy is a story weak men tell themselves to sleep at night. He is learning that there is no justice in the sky, only power on the earth. The boy in the box will escape. We know this. But the part of the story that history books often gloss over is what happened to his soul in that box. He didn't just want to be free. He wanted to ensure that he would never, ever be the one in the collar again. And to do that, he realized he would have to put the collar on everyone else. Welcome back to the Gruesome Historians. When we think of Genghis Khan, we think of the horseman, the archer, the burner of cities. We picture a wave of chaotic violence sweeping across the steppe. But that is a comfortable lie. Chaos is easy to understand. Chaos is just a storm. It passes. What Genghis Khan built was not a storm. It was a machine. The true horror of the Mongol Empire wasn't the violence. It was the paperwork. It was the bureaucracy. It was the fact that Genghis Khan took the darkest impulses of humanity, slavery, exploitation, mass murder, and he legalized them. He turned them into a system so efficient, so rational, and so profitable that even his own generals, men who had killed hundreds, were shocked by its coldness. Tonight, we are going to look under the hood of this machine. We are going to read the ledger of the damned. We are going to explore how a man who wrote laws protecting women and children also built the largest human trafficking network in the history of the world. If you're brave enough to look at the blueprints of hell with me, leave a like on this video. It tells the algorithm that we aren't afraid of the dark. To understand the nightmare, you have to look at the dream. In 1206, after uniting the warring tribes of Mongolia through decades of blood, Temujin took the title Genghis Khan, and his first act as emperor was not to invade a neighbor, but to write a law. It was called the Great Yasa. If you read the Yasa today, without context, you might think Genghis Khan was a liberal reformer. He outlawed the kidnapping of women. He declared that all children were legitimate, even those born to concubines. He granted total religious freedom to his subjects. He forbade the enslavement of any Mongol. For the people of the steppe, who had lived in a cycle of vendettas and raids for centuries, this was paradise. No more stolen wives, no more brother killing brother. It was a golden age. But this paradise had walls. The Yasa was built on a terrifying concept: the distinction between the people, and the others. If you were a Mongol, you were a person. The law protected you. You had rights. If you were not a Mongol, you were not a person. You were a resource. You were a calorie. You were a unit of labor waiting to be harvested. The genius of Genghis Khan was that he didn't break the law to commit atrocities. He wrote the atrocities into the law. He created a legal framework where the enslavement of a foreign population wasn't a crime. It was a tax collection. Let's see this machine in action. The year is 1220. The city is Bukhara. Bukhara was the jewel of the Islamic world. It had libraries filled with the knowledge of centuries. It had markets smelling of spices and silk. Its people felt safe behind their massive walls. When the Mongols arrived, they didn't just attack. They waited. They psychologically dismantled the city before the first arrow flew. And when the walls finally fell, the Mongol army entered not as a mob, but as a team of auditors. Genghis Khan rode his horse into the courtyard of the Great Mosque. He gathered the city's elite, the rich merchants, the holy men, the aristocrats. He looked down at them from the pulpit and delivered one of the most chilling lines in human history. I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. He wasn't just conquering them. He was gaslighting them. He was telling them that their destruction was their own fault. Then the order was given. Not kill everyone. The order was sort them. Imagine standing in that square. The dust is choking you. Your family is holding onto your robes, and you see Mongol officers setting up tables with scrolls and ink. They aren't screaming. They are working. They separated the population into 4 distinct piles. Pile 1, the human capital. These were the artisans, the blacksmiths who could forge swords, the weavers who could make gold brocade, the engineers who knew how to build siege engines. These people were valuable. They were catalogued. Their names were written down. They were told to pack their tools. They were being shipped to Mongolia to build the Khan's new capital. They were slaves, yes, but they were assets. They would be fed. They would be housed. Pile 2, the pleasure, the women, young, beautiful. They were separated from their fathers and husbands. They weren't just raped. That implies a chaotic act of violence. They were distributed. They were assigned to officers based on rank. A captain got 3, a general got 10. They were bonuses, currency. Pile 3, the waste, the elderly, the sick, the defiant, the intellectuals who refused to work. They were taken outside the city walls, and quietly, efficiently, they were erased. Pile 4, the hashah. This is the word that should make your blood run cold. Hashar. It means crowd or mob. But in the Mongol military dictionary, it meant human shield. Let's talk about the fate of the men in Pile 4. These were the shopkeepers, the farmers, the young men with no special skills. They weren't killed in Bukhara. They were rounded up into units of 10 and 100. They were marched to the next city on the warpath, maybe Samarkand. When the Mongols arrived at Samarkand, they didn't send their own soldiers to the walls. They sent the Hashar. Imagine you are a baker from Bukhara. You are given a wooden board. You are forced to run toward the moat of Samarkand while arrows rain down on you. Your job is to throw the board into the moat, then throw dirt on top of it, then maybe throw your own body on top of it. You are there to fill the ditch, so the Mongol horses can cross. The defenders on the wall look down. They see you. They recognize your clothes. They know you are a Muslim, a neighbor. They hesitate. How can they shoot you? That hesitation is what the Mongols counted on. The Hashar broke the moral resolve of the enemy. It forced the defenders to murder their own people to survive. It was psychological torture on an industrial scale. And for the Mongols, it was efficient. Why lose a trained Mongol warrior when you can spend a captured baker? Now, I want you to shift your perspective. Imagine you are a Mongol general. You are a veteran. You grew up on the harsh steppe. You are used to killing. It's part of life. You raid a camp. You steal a horse. You kill a man. It's personal. It's hot blood. But this systematic processing of human beings, this was new. Some historical accounts hint at a deep unease among the older generation of Mongols. They looked at this machinery and felt disconnected. In the old days, you took a slave to help with the herds. You knew their name. They slept in your tent. Now, you are managing a supply chain of thousands of nameless faces. There is a story of a general asking a scribe, "Why do we write their names down? They are just sheep." And the scribe, a captured Chinese bureaucrat working for the Mongols, replied, "Because, my lord, sheep cannot build you a palace. To build a palace, you need to know who holds a hammer." This was the shift. The Mongols stopped being raiders and became managers. They realized that a dead enemy is useless, but a broken enemy is a battery. All roads led to Karakorum. In the middle of the empty steppe, Genghis Khan ordered a capital city to be built. But the Mongols were nomads. They didn't know how to build walls or temples, so the slaves built it. Karakorum became the most cosmopolitan city on earth, and the saddest. Walking down the street, you would hear a dozen languages. You would see a French silversmith working next to a Chinese potter. You would see a Russian architect arguing with a Persian mathematician. They were all there because they had been sorted, and they lived in a terrified hierarchy. If you were a master craftsman, you were treated well. You drank wine. You wore silk. But you knew that if your hands started to shake, if your eyes started to fail, you would be demoted. And demotion meant the hashah. This hierarchy kept the slaves docile. The silversmith didn't want to rebel because he had more to lose than the ditch digger. He identified with his captors more than with his fellow slaves. It was the ultimate control mechanism. Hope. The hope that if you just worked hard enough, you would stay in the useful pile. I want to tell you one more story to prove just how legal this evil was. There was a governor named Kuchi. He was appointed to rule the forest tribes of Siberia, a people called the Oirat. Kuchi let the power go to his head. He started demanding that the Oirat give him their daughters, not for the state, but for his own bed. He took dozens of them. The Oirat, pushed too far, rebelled. They captured Kuchi and killed him. When Genghis Khan heard this, he was furious. But pay close attention to why he was furious. He wasn't angry that Kuchi had raped women. The Yasa allowed the Khan to distribute women. He was angry that Kuchi had done it without authorization. He was angry that Kuchi had been greedy and caused a disruption in the tax flow. Genghis sent his eldest son Yochi to crush the Oirat. The rebellion was put down with brutal efficiency. Genghis Khan died in 1227. He fell from a horse, or perhaps died of illness. The secret is buried with him. But the machine he built didn't die. It got stronger. His sons and grandsons used the same sorting lists to conquer Russia, to burn Baghdad, to rule China. The hashah was used for another 100 years. The slave markets of the Silk Road boomed. And here is the hardest part to swallow. This system worked. The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, allowed trade to flow from Italy to Korea. It spread technology. It spread ideas. The Renaissance in Europe was partly sparked by the ideas that traveled along the safe roads the Mongols built. But those roads were paved with the bones of the hashah. The safety of the merchant was paid for by the slavery of the artisan. It forces us to look in the mirror. We like to think that civilization is the opposite of barbarism. We like to think that laws and spreadsheets and bureaucracies are what protect us from the darkness. But the story of Genghis Khan's slaves teaches us something else. It teaches us that civilization can be a weapon, that a spreadsheet can be more deadly than a sword, that the most terrifying words in history aren't "I will kill you." The most terrifying words are, "Your name is on the list. Please step to the left." The wooden collar that held young Temujin has rotted away to dust. The walls of Bukhara have been rebuilt and fallen a dozen times since. But the idea that human beings are resources to be sorted, categorized, and used, that idea is very much alive. Whenever we see a system that values efficiency over humanity, whenever we see a law that protects the powerful by commodifying the weak, we are seeing the ghost of the Great Khan. He is still with us, watching, calculating. If this story lingers in your mind tonight, if it makes the shadows in your room look a little deeper, then we have done our job. Subscribe to the Gruesome Historians. We are digging up the past, one grave at a time. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't mean it isn't evil.